every interview, we know the character everybody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Dr. Satan.
Sure.
So we're totally not going to talk about it at all.
Fine. I hate him anyways.
No, I'm just kidding. But I want to ask you about your early stuff, because you makeup and effects work first.
Yeah.
What made you decide to go into those departments?
Actually, when we're talking about music, not making any money playing music, and a kid, I've always loved makeup. I grew up, I was a little kid in the 60s, the big Universal craze in the 60s, so I used to watch those when I was little on TV, and I just always loved makeup and monsters, and always was like a side thing, But music was always my passion. And that didn't really pan out that great, so I kind of just started studying on my own. I got whatever books were available, in the early 90s, which wasn't a lot of information.
Right.
And then just kind of lucked out. A cousin of mine fixed an oven for this guy named Scott Coulter, who was a makeup artist, who actually used to be an East Coast guy, did all the stuff in Street Trash. And he's now a CGI guy. And he was going to pay my cousin. My cousin said, you know what? Just hire my buddy because he really wants to get the business. So I just started doing that, and I just started sweeping up the shops and cleaning up and organizing shops and stuff, and then slowly started casting things and mold making.
Finally, you had an affinity for it.
Yeah, definitely. And just willing to do anything, really. And became friends with Tom Masters, and I worked for him mostly in the beginning. And he never really wanted to put me in a suit. And he was out of town doing the Mangler movie. Remember Toby Hooper's Mangler? Mm-hmm. And then the Prophecy came into the shop at the same time. And so this great artist, Scott Coulter, who I was working with, he's now at Legacy, which used to be Stan Winston's. And he put me in, he just said, we got this little thing, you're sitting on a wall, this little chattering, guy. And I did that, and I guess that was cool for Tom. And then Demon Night, we were doing Tales from the Crypt. That ended, and then Demon Night started, so I ended up being the main demon in that, and 5 or 6 other monsters in that show.
Did you do the stunt work too? I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, they hired 2 stunt people, and then there was me and actually Scott Patton's nephew who worked in the shop. And so we were like the main 4 demons. There were also background guys. But the stunt people, and we had stilts on, which gave us like dog legs, so we were about this high off the ground. And of course, mechanical masks, you could barely see out of, and mechanical fingers and stuff. And actually, the 2 stunt people could barely do anything. And they couldn't, walk up the stairs, or it was amazing, because they spent months
for a living.
Yeah,
right.
And they were on hold for months as we were working in the shop, getting everything ready, and all they had to do was go to the gym and hang out. They're getting paid,
Right.
And it comes time for the movie, and they can't even walk the stairs. It's very odd. So,
did you do any of the effects or makeup work for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought so.
I was a department head, which was mainly heading up the foam, latex running.
Oh, okay.
And building background suits, and also doing some puppeteering and blood gags and stuff on set. And then I get in the suit the next day, and so it was really intense work.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but it's still one of my favorite movies. I don't know if you guys have all seen Demon Night, but
it's a great monster. Yeah. And then you did an episode of Tales from the Crypt too, right?
A few, 3 or 4. Yeah.
Toward the end of the series.
It was the last season. Yeah. There was one called Scared and Bored. And another one with some vampires up in the Arctic. And what else? I can't remember.
Were those? Did you do just the suit work in that, or did you do effects?
I was working in the shop at the time, so I'd be involved in that.
And then you just play the monster.
Yeah, which happens a lot. And then when Demon Night came out, the guys from KMB, Howard Berger, Ray Nicotero, Robert Thurston, and they all saw Demon Night. We're like, oh. They had Dust Till Dawn coming up, and they're like, we want those skinny guys as our vampires, Those guys look great. So that's why I met them. And from then on, I worked for Howard Berger for years and years. Like anything they had, they throw me in the suit.
I heard he was a really good guy.
Howard Berger's great, yeah.
Super nice guy.
Yeah, he's a big old bear of a guy, and they're really great makeup artists. I mean, they still do the majority of horror films.
They're great.
Yeah.
Did you on Dust Till Dawn? How many days were you on set for that? Do you remember?
Probably about 3 weeks.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily work every day. I mean, you get in the suit, And that was the first one. And Demon Knight was like prosthetic pieces, so we had like a chest piece glued on and like a hip piece, and there was a tail on it. I don't know if you know, like Makita batteries are about this big to go to Makita drill guns, and that's what ran the tail, and that went right into our crotch. So it was like a pocket there. And then the stilts, and then the rest was all body paint. And then when Dust Till Dawn was nice, because that was a full rubber suit, which was like wearing soft pajamas, you know.
Right.
You still had glue on the face, and they slipped some gloves on and some little feet.
Could you see in that one?
Oh yeah, I could see fine. It had contacts in for the vampire eyes, but and that was a lot of fun. That was
creepy looking vampires. Too.
Yeah. That was a crazy movie.
Yeah, you watch that movie thinking that you're watching Western or something, or some kind of other thing.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, vampires are there. And
yeah, it's all kind of cartoony and kooky and orange too. But it was fun, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, I want to ask you about this. You did the effects for, you're listed as doing effects for Attack the Block and Race to Witch Mountain.
Yeah.
What would you do on that?
I was like a crew guy at a place called ADI. We did like the Last Thing movie. They do quite a bit of stuff. They did all the Tremors movies, and actually the last few Predator vs. Aliens, they did a couple of those. And so I was just in the shop working as a foam runner, which is kind of my forte, you know.
Cool.
Yeah. It used to be in shops, you could, in the 80s and in the early 90s, at least through the 90s, kind of the last of the heyday of makeup, you could get into a shop and like do a lot of different things, like, you know, do some sculpting, do some mold making, some painting, go to set, run effects and stuff. It's very different now. It's all compartmentalized.
Yeah. But you were saying there's more like foam work and more effects work now than there was maybe a couple years ago?
Yeah, I mean, when CGI came in, it seemed to really take a lot of the business away, obviously, as any horror fan knows, watching horror movies. And it seems to be turning somewhat different now. People are tired of cartoons.
CGI backlash.
Yeah, and which is fine. I
Right.
don't mind CGI. If it's something that a human being can't do, like a wall or some weird thing where you need like a flying rig or something, and it's
Right.
kind of haphazard while you're shooting, it takes a long time. I can see why you want to do that. But then when you go for a close-up, you got to have something practical, or it just doesn't, your mind doesn't connect with
It doesn't feel solid.
It doesn't, yeah, it's not real, you know?
Yeah.
And too many rely on the CGI. But I think a lot of young directors are kind of going back to wanting practical stuff on set.
I've seen some CGI where it's used as like it helps the practical effects.
Yeah,
Instead of just all CGI.
Right, you can clean it up. I mean, they even do that when I saw Frankie when you get your day, you know, it's all stop motion.
Right.
But it's all cleaned up digitally.
Right.
Which I don't know if I even care for that, because kind of the thing that people love about stop motion is the jaggedy kind of thing about it, you know, the old Harry Hauser movies and all that. It was still a fun movie, and I enjoyed it. I liked seeing little puppets and stuff.
Yeah. All right. You played the monster in like 400 million different movies and television shows. What was the toughest monster to play?
Toughest thing,
like when you're in the suit, you know, you couldn't see.
Yeah, that would have to be Demon Knight. It was pretty grueling, just because of the type of makeup and the body painting we had. So it was what's called PAX, which is just glue with acrylic paint in it. And so through most of that, I didn't even wash it off because I was just scrubbed raw so many nights, you know. And I would just leave it on, and then they would just paint over it, patch over it. That was pretty grueling. But a lot of them, I mean, last year I did some little short film, you know, that was over to come out. And I had like a big giant 50s bug head on, which didn't quite fit right, and they had a flying rig on me, and I'm hanging like this, the head down. I'm supposed to be like carrying these kids with these feet, and it was so painful and so horrible. And I just got tired, you know.
Yeah.
And again, when I did that X-Files that David Duchovny directed, I came in late on that show. Somebody else had the part, they backed out. And it had this big giant alien head with blinking eyes. And it was glued down over the mouth so I could articulate the mouth with a bunch of dialogue and a small scene with another actor. And but that pinched my head so bad I was nauseous like for days. The whole time I had it on. And once again, it was blind, so I couldn't see.
Right.
And so that was pretty painful. So yeah, that happened, or, you know.
Yeah.
Howard Berger's tortured me for years. Anything Howard ever did, I'm always blind in it. And he had a show.
There is Bruce Campbell.
Kind of, yeah. There was a show called The Others that was very short-lived. It was like this group of paranormal detectives or something, right? And there was a scene with some guy eating miso soup in a Japanese restaurant, and this weird face like pops up out of it. So there was a trash can which they actually filled with actual miso soup. Why, I don't know. You can't tell it's actually.
Right, you're right.
With a big oversized ball with a hole cut in it. And I had the face, Howard put the face on me, and had to get in the trash can, hold my breath, and then like come face up out of this bowl. And so he would have to hold, he's a big old guy, he's holding me down, because I'm all curled up, kind of floating around in this garbage can. And the miso soup just came through the mask and was backwashing through my nose and out my mouth, and I couldn't eat that stuff too much. I love Japanese food too.
You probably did it on purpose.
Probably, yeah. Torture guy.
Well, you did one of my favorites, my family, my kids, you met most of my kids today.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Fair-Haired Child
Right.
from the Masters of Order.
Yeah.
You were telling me about that costume.
That was another K&B done by Howard. He didn't have to play. We shot that in Canada. And once again, yeah, it was that giant head. There was no mechanics to it. It was just stagnant. But, yeah, it was blind in that also. And so that's kind of rough because, you know, like I told you, you're like, okay, you come through the door, you go down the stairs, you go over here, you chase the girl, you go over here, you go over there. It's like, you know, I can't see.
You can't see nothing.
So I would just keep my eyes shut and I would just pace it out. When I do that, I just pace it out, count the number of steps.
And hope that you're hitting the spot.
Yeah, I mean, you know if you're going to go left or right or stay straight. So, you know, it's a little free. You know, if it's on a steady camera or something, they're a little freer too to follow you.
Right.
And but that happens a lot. Yeah, I just kind of pace it out and kind of have it in my head and then go for it for a few takes.
So,
See what happens.
when you met, how did you get the part of Dr. Satan?
That was through Wayne Topp, who's Rob Zombie's makeup guy, and builds all this stuff for all his stage, and all his monsters on stage, and all that stuff. And I worked with him on Dusk Till Dawn. He was a K&B guy. And so we've remained friends for all those years, and I've done a few things here and there with him. And when they came up to do the reshoots, which was to add the whole ending of that movie, then Wayne was like, oh, I know.
Did you ever find out that all these monster parts that you're trying out for, did you ever find Doug Jones trying out for the same?
No, because we're so different. Like, he's way taller than I am.
Right.
And he's more of an actual actor. I mean, he's not just a monster guy. He just kind of fell into that and got some good roles.
Right.
You know. And so no, I mean, I've auditioned for shows. I don't think I've ever gotten a role through an audition.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you only auditioned for like the monster parts?
Yeah.
No chick flicks or anything?
No, not even. Because I'm not that interested in straight acting, really. Right. I mean, I'm just a monster fan.
You like playing the monster?
I love being like Boris Karloff and those guys. You know, it's cool. And so yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten a job through audition. Which is a whole other world anyway, it's an audition thing. Right. Even if it's a commercial, like we need a mummy in a commercial, you know. And you go and do it, and it seems like they already know that they're going to hire and sort of things. So all my stuff has come out of being an effects guy, knowing the shop owners, you know, being their friends, and being easy to work with, and you know, I never complain, and I never, you know, there's lots of people you put in makeups and all they do is bitch and moan.
You got a good reputation for it.
Yeah.
And also having the effects background, you understand.
I know, what to do. So if there's a gag to do, I understand how it works, and usually with things like that, when we did Devil's Rejects, and did that scene with Rosario Dawson, Wayne did a prosthetic on her, which was like 3 pieces. So there was like tenderly stuff he put underneath, then there was a stretchy stuff he put over that was really full, and then the actual foam prosthetic over it, which he had sculpted in fingers, whole fingers, right? So I had to like keep the fingers in those holes, not pull the appliance off, and not grab the 3rd piece, but just grab that middle thing. And that thing's, I mean, it stretched about this far. I thought it was never going to break.
Right.
I thought it was ridiculous while we were doing it. It looks cool to see.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I had to really, you know, I had to know. Just it was one time where they were just going to strap on this thing anyways. And of course, then I had 4 or 5 guys grabbing my arm, you know,
right.
the whole thing. And they, as soon as you do that, they just, as soon as they say action, actors for some reason just all of a sudden it's real. They just think, you know, so they just grab me.
Right.
Big arm, and they're just grabbing me. It's like, I have to hold on to this thing. And
you know what I gotta do, right?
Yeah. That happens a lot, where you get, you know, I did like Dusk Till Dawn 3 or something like that, and it's a vampire. It's this old guy, and the stake was like metal tubing with about this far, a rubber piece that was then on a spring, so it would just, you know, retract into the metal. But if you really hit me hard, it would retract all the way, and then that square block of metal would just pound me in the chest.
Right.
You know? It's like, okay, I got a little bit of rubber there, but it's not
It's not going to protect you.
So we go through it a few times. It's like, okay, I was like, you got to really pull this because you know, break my ribs.
Right, right.
So of course it's action, and of course he just slams me as hard as he can, and I'm still die, and then do it again, you know. And
right.
So it's weird.
By the time take 4 rolls around, you're like, no.
Yeah, it's like it's just play acting. I'm not really a vampire.
Right.
I'm not really a vampire hunter.
Isn't that Devil's Reject scene? Because that's like a huge following.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, you know, loves that scene. Everybody gripes because it didn't make it into the movie. Do you know that Rob Zombie decided not to put it in there because he didn't want any supernatural?
That's what he said. I think he had planned not to be in the whole time because he is not a sequel guy, and he didn't really want to make a sequel.
It's not really.
But House did pretty good in the theater, and so that's why it's not really a sequel. It's just like, it's almost like someone else's take on those characters, like a comic book would be or something. And so, you know, it's a quasi-sequel, not sequel.
Yeah.
I mean, he said in an article that was like, he watched Bonnie and Clyde and Chewbacca showed up. Which I understand, because all the supernatural stuff was gone.
Right.
We did a day where we had a house at this ranch where most of it was shot, where the dog was taken out of the house on a gurney.
For Devil's Reject?
Yeah, which wasn't even put in at all.
Right.
Know? And I was wondering, like, why aren't they going down to get the bodies out of the basement? And
Right.
The professor guy? Is he
Where's all the people?
Right. Was he anyways? You know, how can you kill that thing? So it's odd like that, you know.
Yeah.
Which was weird when then he did Halloween, because he's a non-sequel guy. And I know he loves Halloween as much as anyone else, that movie, you know. And he told me this, and or maybe it was what he told me, but anyways, when he was going to do Halloween, Rob called up John Carpenter and said, "Hey, John, I just wanted to let you know, we're redoing Halloween." I guess John said, "What do you want me to do about it?"
Yeah.
And Rob's like, "I just wanted to tell you, like, good luck," and hung up.
Wow.
Which I, you know,
yeah,
which I understand.
Yeah.
That's his movie, you know.
Right, right.
So.
And he's kind of always had the attitude of like, well, just do what you're going to do.
Yeah, he didn't make any other sequels. He let them just go on with that.
Well, you had to figure Rob Zombie wasn't going to be worse than a couple of those.
Sure.
Right, you know.
Yeah.
So, what's Rob Zombie like to work with?
He's awesome. He's a cool little rock and roll guy, you know, just loves 70s rock music and old monster movies.
Pretty much the persona that he portrays.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, he's got Creature from the Black Lagoon and stuff, you know. So I got along really well with him. After House, we did 2 weeks of reshoots, which I did about 4 days on it, and maybe shot 2 of those 4 days. And then afterwards, of course, Universal dumped him.
Right.
So we had nobody to put the movie out. So a lot of time went, months went by, and Wayne would call me every once in a while and say, "Hey, you know, you want to go over to Rob's house?" He's living in LA at the time. He was down in an older part of LA, like a cool old mansion he bought before he married Sherry. So we're just going to shoot stuff in his house because he just couldn't stop. You know, he just was adding things to it. We did it like 3 weekends, which was the most fun I ever had.
Oh, wow.
So we go to his house, and Sherry make lunch, and we go and mock our sets in the basement, and, like guerrilla filmmaking, but with some famous guy, you know.
Right.
And even the stage props are down in the basement like anybody's craft would be, you know.
Just throw it
like his big long finger arms, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Hey, that wasn't the toy I bought of you, you know." Like, yeah, those things don't work. It was odd. So, but we did Tiny Burning in the Bed at his house. We did the Albert Fish stuff. Wayne did an Albert Fish makeup on me where he's getting spanked and the guy with the mask on his head. More Tiny Burning, which was up in his movie screening room. He just had like fire elements on the screen. and I had makeup on, and I just stood in front of that and acted like I was burning, and that was all kind of, cut in real quick, flashy stuff.
Yeah.
I did like 3 weekends in a row.
That's one thing I really like about the movie, all those little flash cuts.
Yeah.
Strange little...
Well, that's more of that coming up in Lords of Salem, because it seems like everything I did in that is the same kind of kooky thing.
Lords of Salem is the new Rob Zombie.
Yeah.
And that's coming out, is that supposed to come out?
2013, so probably spring.
Spring, okay.
Perfect time for a horror movie.
How many days were you on set for that?
Like 5 days. One day I didn't shoot, which was good because it was about 32 degrees out at a ranch. And they had all that. I was supposed to be... But one scene I did was at the ending, was like one of Satan's minions. This is really cool. It's an 8 feet tall Satan guy. Weird growths coming off him and on his face. Pretty cool looking. And then there was a bunch of us with like his minions. So we had these cool helmets on. And just a lot of body paint. Weird penises hanging there. Big tree spikes and...
Totally surreal type thing.
Yeah. And that was all, and then we did a bunch of ghosts, like another doctor, his ghost mask on, taking these slugs out of Sherry, which they're trying to like have Satan's baby, I guess, these witches. I never read the script, so I'm not quite sure. And then I wore that ghost mask again as a priest, masturbating a priest.
It's whatever they needed you to do.
Yeah. That was the weird thing. There were 3 of us when we were in an old theater in LA. Like all Art Deco, beautiful theaters never used anymore. And in the bathroom, just all tile. It was beautiful architecture. And a lot of sets seem very Clockwork Orange-y when you have these big boxes lit up, big plastic boxes. So there's the 3 of us priests sitting there with these red dildos and these weird masks on. And, we're supposed to be like doing it to the music. And then he's like, okay, now just do it. It's not to the music. And, but of course, we had gloves on, so it was like kind of dry, and so there was a grip that had to have a thing of KY so you could buy. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's a day's work. I don't know. So we'll see.
Right.
Those things again are probably going to be really quick in the movie.
Right.
I imagine.
It's more than imagery.
Yeah.
Yeah. That seems sort of like his MO.
So it should be pretty psychedelic.
Why didn't you get a script? Is that a common thing?
If I had nothing to say, it
okay.
doesn't matter. He's just like, Ron's just like, another day, another monster,
Right.
Plus, a lot of that stuff might be outlined a little bit, but, if it's not a lot of dialogue or whatever, then it just kind of improvises. Because there's like the Lords of Salem are actually like a metal band.
Right.
And even John Five and his bass player, I can't remember his name, played 2 of the guys. They were even playing a couple monsters, and John Five had the mask on. It was just a slip over mask. It was like, hey, guys, do that. It's like,
really? You can do it.
It's not that bad.
Yeah. You've been in way worse, but don't work for Howard Berger.
Yeah, exactly. So that was cool. They're in a bunch of it, and John's done the movie, all the music for it. Yeah, cool.
Awesome. I want to ask you, speaking of music, you have a band?
I've had a few, yeah.
This one band in particular, RF7?
RF7, yeah, that's kind of a hardcore, and we call it punk rock.
You playing drums for that?
Yeah, we call it hardcore, but yeah, I've been in that band since '79.
Wow.
Yeah. And we were part of the early LA, in the early 80s, the LA scene, which was huge, which influenced the whole country, the LA scene, with Black Flag, certain bands like that, Bad Religion, Social Distortion, everyone knows those bands. And, but, we played.
Did you guys play around in the same circles?
Yeah.
Those bands?
Yeah, all the same gigs, and then I just got tired after a while. Actually, the whole LA punk thing became a very gang-oriented thing after a while. I mean, when it first started, it was more like a small group of people that were all kind of just doing the same thing, and it's not really an anarchy thing, but just to, kind of upset people and just have their own
same kind of
thing.
movement.
Yeah, and to really strip down music and all that. And later, by the mid to late 80s, it was gangs. It was just I remember playing in other bands I had. There were still punk bands, and you couldn't get through a gig without a big fights breaking out between these mid-city punks and these other guys, and the Spanish guys and the white guys. It just became crazy.
It wasn't even about music anymore.
No, not at all. It was about just being a gang, and so I got out of the scene.
Right. One other thing I want to ask you about the music thing is, Can my band open for you?
Sure.
Awesome. Got time to take it.
Yeah, battery's about to die.
Yeah.
He said the batteries.
Yeah, come out to LA and we'll play some CD bars. 50 people, you know.
Oh, I wanted to ask you this, because I saw a wardrobe credit for Thor.
Yes.
That was a surprising...
That's more foam running.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Because I have to think, that seemed like an odd thing to have on a credit for that.
Right. We work for a guy who runs foam latex for a bunch of shops. It used to be the shops all had their own foam rooms, but they'd run the foam latex. Then all of a sudden they decided, well, CGI's coming now, we're not running it, but nobody needed it anymore, foam shop. So there's a guy who has his own shop, and that's pretty much what he does. And he still does. So he runs foam for whoever, outsource.